This is my audience.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my hair. I shouldn't have.
The famous American author Orson Martin once said, "All men who have achieved great things have been great dreamers," according to BrainyQuote.com on June 20th, 2014. Throughout history, we have had many great dreamers. Furthermore, one of those great dreamers has been Walt Disney. Walt Disney has impacted the lives of so many people through his cartoons, films, and even theme parks. Nevertheless, his journey to success wasn't an easy one. Today, I will be describing to you the critical moments throughout Walt Disney's life that ultimately led him to his success. For my 3 main points, I'll be discussing Walt Disney's difficult childhood, how hard he worked during his adulthood, and his accomplishments towards the end of his life. So let's start from the beginning. My first main point is, although Walt Disney experienced an unstable childhood which consisted of him constantly moving, his family was there and he developed a passion for drawing. He was born on December 5th, 1901 to Eliza and Flora Disney in Chicago, Illinois, and he was the youngest of 4 boys and he had 1 younger sister. Nevertheless, they only stayed there for 5 years, so this is where he began to move a lot. He moved to Marceline, Missouri in 1906 so his father could start a farm, and while he was at the farm, he would constantly draw the farm animals, and that's how he established his beginning skills for drawing. And he eventually, at the age of 7, even sold his drawings to his neighborhood. However, he did not only do drawings, but he also did paintings, and one of his paintings that he remembered the most was painting the side of his house with tar so he could make a mural. Lastly, while in Marceline, Missouri, he experienced his first movie house, which at that age he didn't know that he would soon be creating his own movies that would be showing up later in his life. Then he moved to Kansas City, Missouri in 1911 because his father's farm failed and they needed to find work. Nevertheless, he continued to draw. He drew pictures to go with stories onto a chalkboard for his classmates, and that's how he would get them to laugh all the time. And then he became intrigued by acting and performing. So he would often imitate Charlie Chaplin, one of his favorite actors, and that's how he'd also get his classmates to laugh. So he constantly was looking for the attention of others and trying to find humor in things. And then he became so intrigued with movies and everything, and acting, he would actually sneak out of his house at night so he could go to public places and perform comical skits. Then he moved to Chicago, Illinois in 1917. And here he attended McKinley High School, and then he attended the Art Institute of Chicago in the evenings. And the classes ended up paying off because during high school he actually had the opportunity to draw cartoons for their yearbook. Nevertheless, he dropped out at age 16 and enlisted in the U.S. Army. However, he wasn't old enough, so the U.S. Army turned him down, and instead he became an American Ambulance Corps and moved to France for 1 year. However, he continued to work on his drawing skills, and people would actually say all over his ambulance he had pictures of all the cartoons that he would draw, and some of those cartoons are actually the ones we see in movies today. So he began creating those at such a young age. And then he moved back to America. So now on to the beginning of Walt Disney's adulthood. My second main point is Walt Disney's passion for drawing, which he developed in his childhood, soon became the foundation for his career during the beginning of his adulthood. He moved back to Kansas City, Missouri, and began his job at a commercial street art studio, where he actually met Ub Iwerks, who created ads with him, and together they formed a partnership and actually began Laugh-O-Grams Films. Nevertheless, they created short animations, but their company failed and they went bankrupt. So he decided to move to California at the age of 21, with only $40 in his pocket, rough drafts of the Allison comedies that would soon become commercialized, and a desire to become a director. So he met up with his brother Roy, who was actually living down in California, And Roy always stood behind him and believed in Walter's skills, and he decided to assist Walter in accomplishing his dreams. And with $250 and a $500 loan, they began working in their uncle's garage trying to create films that would soon be publicized. So they continued to work on these films, and eventually they received a contract from Margaret Winkler for the Alice comedies, which he drew up earlier. With this new money that they earned through the Alice comedies, they ultimately began Disney Bros Studio. At last, Walter could finally accomplish his dream of becoming a director and story developer. So at this high point in his life, while he had a good income coming in, he decided to marry Lillian Bounds in 1925. And actually, she was one of his employees, and she was a studio inker, and together they would soon have 2 daughters named Diane and Sharon. So while they were working at the Disney Bros Studio, they created Mickey Mouse in 1928, probably one of his most popular animations that we all know. And later on, Mickey Mouse would be featured in Steamboat Willie, and it would actually be the first film with sound. Then, according to WaltDisney.org, on June 20th, 2014, the creation of Mickey ultimately established Disney Bros Studio as the leading animation studio in the country. So, with this new title, he began creating feature-length films. And one of these is probably a popular one that we all know, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, which was released in 1937 and was the first of its kind because it was animated, it had color, and it had sound. Overall, this film took 4 years to make and required 6-figure loans, according to WaltDisney.org on June 20th, 2014. However, all this hard work and time would soon pay off when it won an Academy Award. Some other of these feature-length films that we may know are Bambi, Fantasia, and of course, Pinocchio. Now on to the end of Walt Disney's life. At last, my final point is, towards the end of Walt Disney's life, he accomplished many of his dreams that no one thought were even possible. With this new accomplishment, he began to branch out and create live-action feature films. For example, 2 of these would be The Sword and the Rose, which was released in 1953, and 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, which was released a year later. Then Walt Disney once said, "It's the principal thing I hope to leave when I move on to greener pastures if I can help provide a place to develop the talent of the future. I think I will have accomplished something," according to JustDisney.com on June 20th, 2014. So with this passion, he decided to help establish the California Institute of Arts in 1961. And they actually combined 2 schools, and they would come to this building where they could work on all kinds of art that ranged from actually cartoon drawing to performing. And he felt by adding them together and creating them in this building that there'd be more inspiration for their creativity by combining all types of art. Then, of course, he created Disneyland Park. According to JustDisney.com on June 20th, 2014, Walt Disney stated, "I don't want the public to see the world they live in when they're in the park. I want to feel they're in another world." So they spent $17 million creating the park of his dreams so he could accomplish this. And it opened in 1955 in California. Then they went on to create Walt Disney World. This park was created near Orlando, Florida. However, Walt Disney never got a chance to actually see the park because he died on December 15th in 1996 due to lung cancer because he smoked so many cigarettes. However, Roy changed the park's name. Instead of Disney World, they changed it to Walt Disney World in tribute to his brother who passed away. And Roy did a very good job he'd make sure that all the employees would do everything exactly how Walt Disney wanted it. So it would be the best representation of what he wanted in his dream. So they followed with the plans exactly, and the park finally opened in 1971. So let's review. Walt Disney was a man who truly followed his dreams and did not let anything stop him. He faced many struggles as a child, but worked extremely hard to reach his goals as a young adult, which helped his dreams reach their full potential in his later years. Therefore, Walt Disney should be an inspiration for you to accomplish your goals as well. For with the right amount of passion and determination, you can follow one of your greatest dreams.